What happens when you buy in the highest state of the market? Hey, it's Ryan Hodge here, broker owner at the realty firm, and Sandra Tavares and myself have been operating here in London as higher producing real estate agents, broker owners for the better part of 20 years. And we have been in multiple markets. And oftentimes, what you will see with us is a lot of our successes. We list and sell a lot of real estate. We help buyers, invest, build, get into new homes, start their journeys. And these are all wonderful stories. But sometimes what you don't see is what goes on behind the scenes in many other appointments that maybe don't get posted on places like social media or things like that. And I will share that in the last couple of years, but specifically into the start of 2026, I have had many more appointments than actually seem successful than ultimately those that are not. And the reason that I share that is that there are a lot of people that went through buying in the height of the market, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022, which were record setting years inside of London, Ontario real estate. On average, for many years, real estate in London only went up about 2% to 5%. But through those years, we saw some years upwards of 15 to 30% as an increase to property value and what people were going through. And because of that incredibly low demand, and because of the fact that many, many people, were into multiple offer situations, bidding wars, so to speak, oftentimes they paid very, very high price points and premiums. And this now is creating a lot of challenges. And I'm not here to slam any other real estate agents or things like that. I think that our profession overall is a great one. And you have some really, really good, strong professional people inside of our marketplaces. However, there are a lot of people that are in a really challenging position because they didn't receive great guidance through the height of the market. And you need great guidance in any market, but I'm really seeing some real challenges that exist right now. So, for example, I was into a property yesterday, which was March 21st, 2026. And these folks had purchased 2 years ago, right at the end of the height of the market, where pricing had started to switch. At the end of 2023, it was like somebody turned a switch off and the market just started to slow down. And then, of course, we saw on average a 25% correction in the market. In a shifting market, there are still many sellers that are testing the marketplace, and they're testing to see if they can still get the price point that were in the record-setting years. More often than not, they can't. So good guidance and approach to pricing is very, very important. However, every now and then, what we'll see is somebody that priced their home at a significantly high level, and a buyer working with their agent goes in, and whether they're competing or not, tends to pay a little bit higher in terms of price. Well, the property that I saw was originally listed at $549,900, and it was listed for that in 2024. Now, to me, when I do all of my calculations, my deep market research, when I take a look at, what that property should have sold for back then, $549,900 was pretty much right on track. However, this buyer went into a situation where they were into a multiple offer and competing situation. Unfortunately, it wasn't disclosed how many offers there were, which is a whole other topic in itself as far as RICO violations and things like that. RICO is our Real Estate Council of Ontario, designed to protect the consumer. And if somebody's not given proper fiduciary duty and their interests being protected, a consumer can file a complaint. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. They ended up paying $680,000 for this property. So $130,000 over what appears to be market value. I was actually surprised that this property appraised when it came to their financing. And so my spidey senses start to go up and the alarm bells start to go off. And when I'm sitting with them and I'm sharing with them that right now, even after the correction, they're probably situated in between $550,000 to $600,000. They're not in a position to sell based on the equity that they have in the home. It would take a lot for them to get out of that and move on to the next stage. And there are story after story like that in this market. The frustration the financial struggle, the challenges that can actually exist when you do buy in the height of the market are unbelievably overwhelming right now in London, Ontario real estate. The reason that I share this with you today is, number one, having an awareness to this if you are buying in any market. And one of the key questions that I always say to my clients is, are you going to be here for 5 years, 10 years, or longer? Because if not, we need to buy at a purchase price that if you had to turn around in 3 months, 6 months, or even tomorrow and sell, you should obtain the value without losing, money and losing your shirt on this property. And so these are the things to keep in mind as you start to navigate the market and start to learn a little bit more about where the market stands. And if you were somebody that bought in the height of the market, sometimes holding on to the property a little bit longer to see how things go inside of the market are important. But also getting a really good gauge and understanding, where things truly stand right now for you, going to be really important to help with your decision-making process, especially if you have to move. So be sure to, reach out for free market evaluations or buyer consultations to look at understanding pricing and value, not from just what somebody thinks their home's worth or what's going on in the market, but getting deep market research for London, Ontario homes for not only buying right now, but also what could happen depending on the state of the market if for some reason you had to sell and turn the house around quickly. These are the things that we're working with inside of our buyer consultations, our buyer representation agreements when we work with buyers to secure a property. And I highly encourage you to reach out to us anytime. Our consultations are free. There's no obligation to them. We're here to serve and support those in the London, Ontario real estate community and people looking to get into the market or to sell and remain in the market or perhaps even get out of the market. It's just what we do. Sandra and I have been operating for nearly 20 years inside of London, Ontario. We're here to support every step of the way. And I just thought I'd share some insight on what it's like to buy at the height of the market and what can be done right now as the market has shifted, as it's becoming more balanced, and it is more of a buyer's market right now. Be sure to reach out to us anytime. My direct line is 519-859-5408, or you can always get us at www.ryanhodge.ca.